Good morning, afternoon, evening, everybody. I am Gunnar Yields, and welcome to another episode of the Logical Gamers podcast. I am with a three-man crew, including myself tonight. I've got Mr. Esoteric, Mr. Zeta, and Mr. Zeta Kaiser. So today's episode is going to be one that had more of a divisive rhetoric behind it that I thought it would. It's strategy guides, video game strategy guides. Some and kind of like our takes on it, our opinions. Do we use them for a lot of the games we play? Do we not? What do we feel on them? Because I was reading an interesting article on Destructoid, which we'll have linked in the pinned comments under the video if any of our listeners want to read. It's about strategy guides and how the author of the strategy guide says that they're not going to be ashamed anymore to use strategy guides, and I found that really odd. Sorry, I'm trying to pull up I'm a professional person, I swear. The title of the article was "I'm using guides guilt-free from now on," and when I read that title and read the article, I was like, guilt-free? People have guilt when it comes to using strategy guides? And as I read the article and read some of the comments in the comments section, I was like, oh wow, there's more of a conversation here than I thought they would, because to get the ball rolling, as far as my take on strategy guides, I feel they're there for a reason, and they're not a bad thing. And if you want to play your entire playthrough, whether it's your first playthrough, second playthrough, or 300th playthrough, using a strategy guide, I don't see a problem with that. Some people, I know we might have some opinions on it, but some people, they need guidance when playing a game, and some people don't like a sense of freedom that a game might give them. So they refer to strategy guides to kind of give them a linear, organized plan of attack, so to speak, how to tackle the game. So the reason why I use strategy guides for certain games is because I grew up in a time, or I live in a time where JRPGs are my main type of game, and it's a lot less hurtful than it is now. But when I was playing JRPGs, like the original Final Fantasy games, the original Tales games, Phantasy Star, and things of that nature, they used to have missable items, missable subquests, and if you miss them, you will never get a chance to get that side quest ever again. You miss it for that playthrough. I think I've discussed this with Kong in another podcast, that Tales of I want to say Symphonia, but it's not just Symphonia. The Tales of series is pretty notorious for that. So I was recently playing Tales of Vesperia on the Switch, and I was reading a strategy guide, and I would see a bunch of things where it was just like, talk to this NPC at this time. If you miss talking to this NPC, you lock yourself out of this whole quest line that leads to an ultimate weapon. And it's just like, I would have never known to talk to that NPC at that specific spot, at that specific point of time in the game, unless I was using a guide or just made an excessive compulsive habit of talking to every NPC when I enter the city, which sometimes the NPC dialogue is not that great, so I don't want to read it. But anyway, I've rambled a bit too much. So, my opinion on strategy guides is that they're fine. If you want to play them for your first playthrough, that's your prerogative. I don't think they're cheating. I don't think they diminish the value of the game. And also, if you want to go balls to the walls and play blind and whatever you miss is whatever you miss, hey, cool. But strategy guides are there for people who want to just have some pointers on where to go, what to do, what to look out for. So, before I spend an hour rambling, I'm going to pass it off to you, gentlemen. Give me your takes on strategy guides. Do you use them in your playthroughs? Have you used them on certain games? Just whatever comes to mind.
Well, before we go further, because I wanted to ask this during the podcast instead of beforehand, like, what are we using to gauge as like a strategy guide? I would say, like, does it have to be something that's like officially printed, like in the olden days of like freaking, who was it, Primera, whatever the
Prima, yeah, you got it. Yeah.
Like, are we using that, or are we using like
well, that's an interesting
things?
Okay. That's an interesting thing because the way I envisioned our conversation going was kind of running the gambit of strategy guys. Like we could talk about the good old days, right? Some
Yeah.
people listening might not know that back then, official strategy guides sanctioned by the video game companies existed, and their entire purpose was to basically give you a step-by-step um, run through of the game, and how strategy guides have kind of devolved, depending on your stance, into basically being an internet source. How you can look up a facts on IGN, GameFAQs, Kotaku, whatever website, and there'll more than likely be a strategy guide, some in depth and some like you were talking about, Zeta, like top 10 things you need to know before you play Elden Ring or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can that'll run the gambit, and think it'd be a good history lesson for our younger listeners that watch our podcast. So since you brought it up, I'll let you take it away on that front.
All right. Well, then I would say that. I mean, if you're using a guide to completely, I sound like a real elitist right about now. If you're using a guide to like completely play the game from like start to finish, I feel like what's the point? Because at that point, I feel like you could just probably. I mean, you still have to like be able to function and beat the game, but if you're using a guy like from start to finish, I feel like that defeats the point. Like any tension that would have been been built up or you would have came upon, you kind of lose because you know exactly what's going to happen next. So you'll see it. So you're like, oh well, there's no surprise here, or there's no hidden boss fight or anything like that. So I know what's coming. Like for an example, I'll use something old because I believe technically it wasn't in the strategy guide, but it was in the booklet for Final Fantasy VIII, where they tell you about the dinosaurs when you're doing the seed exam.
Mm.
Whereas before, you like had you just gone in, you would have no idea that there'll just be parts where like you just see a dinosaur and you'll think, oh well, I've beaten everything else, so this should be fine. But like the booklet like clearly tells you like, yeah, don't mess with this. It's gonna wreck your shit. So you'll get like a different experience basically where if you from knowing that ahead of time as opposed to like no just going in blind and learning.
Okay.
but
Okay.
but where I would deviate like a guide is if like you're trying to do something, I want to say like specific. So like my example is for Persona 3, and if anybody who's played like the Persona games know that you have the balance between the social links and like the actual story, and you may or may not be able to max everything out in one go. So it's like, all right, I really don't want to play this 2 or 3 times because I don't time manage correctly. So I had a guide telling me like, all right, talk to these people and do these things so that by the end of the game, which I still fucked up somehow, but by the end of the game, all your social links will be maxed out.
Funny
So
enough, I'm playing Persona 4 Golden now, and I have a strategy guide, and it says do this social link here, go fish on this day, and for the same reason, it's like I want to experience every social link and their ending and rank 10 all of them in one shot because I'll play P4 again. P4 is a great game, but I just want a one playthrough, and then maybe like 2-3 years now, I'll do another playthrough. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, because all that stuff transfers over. So it's just like, all right, cool. I don't have to like go back and try to remember like, who do I have to talk to do what again? It'll all be
right.
done already.
Right. Then the second playthrough was like, all right, your waifu, you're trash. I'm gonna do your social link, and I'm not doing your social link
Yeah,
because I already have the rank 10 persona for you. I don't need to care anymore. Yeah, I
yeah,
get that.
yeah, exactly. And another thing I would say would be like minus you, the other logical LogiCast people, they all play Pokemon, and breeding Pokemon is not something that is taught at all, nor is IVs or EVs. So if you wanted to like to actually battle people correctly, I would say, or if you was like trying to get the advantage, you're not going to get that from the game whatsoever. Like you have to look that up. You have to like learn about those things and what gives you what points, what natures are correct, and all this other stuff. And that's just not something that the game is going to teach you. The game has gotten better with doing that now, but even then, it still doesn't tell you exactly things. Like I was doing stuff for Scarlet and Violet, and I didn't know that they bumped up the numbers because before I think it was 4, 5. I forgot the exact amount when you put on the power items and whatnot. But now it's 10, so now it's even faster, and I didn't realize that. Like it was while I was looking up to see, all right, who do I hunt for IV points that I realized like, oh yeah, now when you put these on, there's 10 points. The game would not have told me that, or at least I'm assuming the game would not have told me that. I just know that now it's better. As opposed to like using a guide to go through Pokemon, because like I don't need a guide to go through Pokemon. I needed it for testing stuff because I just didn't care. I'm not going to freaking memorize the crap.
You didn't care about that deep Pokemon Scarlet Violet lore?
Nope.
I heard it was actually pretty. I played a bit of it, and it was actually pretty interesting. Like more so than the usual Pokemon story. But I get what you're saying. Yeah.
No, I liked it. It was fine. It was just like it was the school stuff. I'm just like, I'm not gonna remember these fucking questions. Get out of here.
Yeah, I get you.
So that's kind of like my divide, which is why I asked the question I did earlier about like if we're like talking about something specific or if we're just like just straight strategy guides. But just in general, I feel like if you're using a guide from start to finish, I feel like it cheating stuff. Like if you need help, that's one thing. But like if you're like, oh, I'm just gonna use the guide for everything, it's just like, I mean, realistically, because the guy in the article says that, oh, I used a playthrough. I think it was like one of his friends was doing for Dark Souls. He like went along with Dark Souls. I'm like, at that point, you might as well just watch the playthrough if you're gonna do it for everything step by step.
Yeah, I mean, Dark Souls is a weird example because I think Elden Ring nailed it. Dark Souls had a bad habit that if all their side quests, which I use the word side quest in a very loose term, they were all very easy to fuck up. So if you went too far without talking to a particular NPC, that NPC's locked out for the entire playthrough. And Dark Souls is all about, hey, look, our lore's here, but the gameplay's first and foremost. So it's really easy to miss that. I think Elden Ring did a way better job of kind of letting you know what the side quests are. And in Elden Ring, a lot of side quests aren't missable until you pretty much beat the game. Like if you see credits roll, obviously you missed out on side quests.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just found it funny that like the person in the article was just like felt they were committing a great sin by using a strategy guide. And it's just like, bro, we're not Reddit, we're not Twitter. Like no one's
that
gonna.
Was weird. I feel that was from being terminally online, as they like to say.
Yeah, it's like
being judged.
Yeah, but Esoteric. Let me hear your opinion on it.
Yeah, I've ranted long enough.
Yeah. We're all saying our piece. I get that.
Competitive. You want to optimize your, like, let's say Street Fighter, for example. Not sure if they spoke about frame data in like the strategy guides from like Street Fighter 2 through and so on or whatever. I think it was mostly discussed in 4, but you'd want to know.
4 is the only one I know.
Yeah, that's when I started like hearing about frame data and whatnot. But back in the days, they did have combos, so you want to optimize your best character utilization. You want to know what's most effective from what's not, what's okay to use, what's not okay to use, and things like that. I would also say with like when you're missing out on certain things. So me personally, I don't mind playing the game again because I'm a completionist, but I do like to start the game off from beginning to end and try to figure out as much as I can before I refer to a strategy guide. Also, I am pretty unorthodox. Like the strategy guides that I acquired over the time would be mostly because of the content that it includes, such as like, how some art strategy guides have certain artwork, have like posters, special cards, etc., etc.
Good point. I'll bring that up in a bit. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, Pokemon. I recall the very first Pokemon strategy guide, which my brother had, because I was young. I was about 10 years old, didn't have money, but he was old enough to acquire one, and they had stickers that allowed you to, stick onto the corresponding Pokemon just to let you know whether or not you caught it, because Pokemon wasn't optimized enough to let you know whether or not you caught that said Pokemon. I believe they did it in Gold and Silver, where they had the Pokeball icon to indicate whether or not
that's when they had it next to it.
So that was really super helpful. And also with Pokemon being a competitive game, you want to catch them all to have a variety, and just, diversify your team. Um, what else? Tactical RPGs. They pretty much all somewhat play the same. So, you're going to get through them eventually if you know the appropriate characters you want to use and how effective they are. But some people might want to utilize strategy guides to take it a step further to min-max their unit, make sure that they're proficient enough to take down certain characters, they're effective in their roles, and so on and so forth. So for
Or
me,
unlock a character and he still be useless.
that's true too. I mean, it's so many variables that come into strategy guides. Some people don't have enough time, so they want the full experience, but they want to know everything about the game beforehand so that they can, traverse through it in an effective way, so they don't have to play again and miss out on anything. Again, I come from a generation where I like to figure stuff out first before actually going to the strategy guide. Dark Souls is, like, I would say, an exception to the rule because it was so vague in a sense of what they wanted you to do that it was pretty difficult to, like, figure out who's who from what's what. I mean, I believe there was a character that I blindly helped out, and he ended up killing all the NPCs. And if someone didn't tell me in the chat, because I did stream it, that he would have killed the Firekeeper, and I would have been SOL from going to I forgot the name of the main base, but the main part of that world where you go to speak to everyone.
Firelink Shrine, I believe it's called.
Yeah, Firelink Shrine.
Yeah.
Like, I would have been SOL. I would not have been able to go there in a fast way. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I feel as though to each his own, but how I utilize strategy guides is one for being a completionist, trying to complete everything that I missed out on after finishing the game. Optimizing a character in a strategy game or effectively using a character in a competitive game. That's pretty much my take on it,
Okay. So Zeta brought up a good point about physical strategy guides. So for those that don't know, back then the internet wasn't really a thing or as prevalent as it is. So a lot of physical strategy guides would be released, and this would be your only knowledge about how to progress through the game. And some of these were actually like mini art books along with the strategy guide.
Oh, that was me. I said that.
Oh, sorry. There you go.
Take the credit now.
False valor there. There you go. But so I'm looking at for those that don't know, everybody here knows I'm a pretty massive Legend of Zelda mega fan, simp, terminology, whatever you want to use. And I have, luckily enough, I have the actual original strategy guide from The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, which is one of my all-time favorite Zelda games. And for this segment, I'm just looking at it, and as opposed, like, they also have the guides here, the actual information that one needs, but on top of that, they have like amazing artwork. Like, if I could show you, I'll send you guys pictures. They have like amazing artwork that covers the storyline of Zelda and Zelda 2 all the way to Link's Awakening, Link to the Past, sorry. And it's just like, that's what strategy guides used to be back then. They were about giving you the information, but they were also about basically just setting the world of the game that you were reading about. They were like mini art books before art books were a thing. Now we all know that they have specific books that just show the art, but that's what strategy guides used to be. And then, as the internet grew bigger, the internet became more accessible to more people, the idea of a physical strategy guide kind of started wearing away. And then once the digital age fully kicked in and games started receiving updates, that was pretty much the take old Yipper to the back of the barn moment for strategy guides because take Street Fighter 4 example. If anybody has that Street Fighter 4 strategy guide, that shit is mega obsolete. I mean, one, because the game isn't really relevant much anymore, but like the amount of updates and character nerfs and buffs and reworks that the thing had, it's like this is a completely, Ken's Shoryuken doesn't do anywhere near what Ken's Shoryuken does now. So I just wanted to talk about, because you guys mentioned that art books used to be kind of more than just information. They used to be like, here's like some art, here's some backstory, here's some lore.
Yeah.
And if anybody ever gets an opportunity to look at old strategy guides from like, I'm talking about like the NES, the SNES era, like early like PlayStation era, take a look at them, because they're their own breed of thing. And I'm glad that I still have some in my collection to this day. But yeah, so that that was a good point. That was a good point that you made. Esoteric. Sorry, gotta give credit where credit is due.
Well, before you forget, because you said the same. Oh, I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna just say, like, to touch on Telly's point, like, it was more of an incentive for the book to be kept. For example, like you know everything that's in the game, but yet those little trinkets that they give you, such as character bios, posters, which will eventually be ripped out of the book if you were someone that wanted to like put them up on your walls or whatnot.
Sacrilege.
Sacrilege. Listen. I remember having that Legend of Zelda book. I believe it was Link to the Past, where they came with the full map. It was a
it has the full
map, and it was beautiful because you had a physical copy of something that was only digital for that time. I miss those days, man. I do.
Yeah, old school strategy guides are like I also have the Breath of Fire strategy guide, and it shows fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger buff Ryu, and it's just like that shit is so 80s, man. And it has like all the information, but also has like artwork for Breath of Fire in it, and it's just like I gotta pay like $90 nowadays to get an art book to have this.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like this used to be standard back in the day, and it's like I love it so much.
Right. But yeah, I was gonna say, because you brought it up, I was gonna bring it up later about when things change, because like I don't remember, it was for Elder Ring. It was some strategy that they was using to beat freaking whatchamacallit, and then like it got patched out, and it's just like, what happens when it's just like with the strategies, when it's just like, all right, because we're in a different age now, everything gets updated, everything gets patched if it isn't already broken when it comes out.
Yeah.
Because when was it Skyward Sword was the first time, or was it Twilight Princess was the first time? I forget which Zelda game was the first time you could mess yourself up and like hard lock your game if you did something wrong. I don't remember.
I don't know if Twilight Princess had its own thing, but I know definitely Skyward Sword had a game-breaking bug.
Yeah, I know it was that for sure. I just didn't remember if they had one before that. But like stuff like that is like it's not something that would happen anymore, because a strategy guy would have been like, oh, go in this order. If they wouldn't have told you that the game would have glitched on you, but it would have gave you the correct order to go in. And the same thing for the Elden Ring. They were just like, all right, if you want to beat this boss, you have to do this, and this. And then patches come out, and now just like the strategy is kind of irrelevant. So it's like, what are you doing now with the strategy or the book? Like you said with the Street Fighter, like once Super came out and then once Ultra came out, just like, all right, we have like a whole new mechanic now. Like we have the red focus attacks. We have freaking new Ultras. We have brand new characters who weren't even in the old strategy to begin with. So
right,
it's like the strategies that you're getting or the strategy books that you're getting, it could be like semi game dependent. Because if it's something that's competitive, it's like that's with the like exception of I think Pokemon, because Pokemon doesn't really change. It's the new game that comes out when things change. But for other things, it's like weekly, monthly, whatever basis, things could be changing and updated, and then not function the same way it did before.
Well, luckily, we kept up with the times, in terms of the digital aspect. If you are a collector, then of course the strategy guide will remain relevant, more so as a collector's item as opposed to the information that it provides. But given the time that we're in, luckily all this information is accessible on the internet. So at this point, there's no real need to purchase, strategy guides unless you're looking to collect them. You
Well, even
know,
without that, like it's like for the example that they used in the article with the Let's Play. Like, let's say somebody came in just super late to Dark Souls. I don't
uh-huh.
think it would apply to that, but like, let's say they come in, they have the Dark Souls that they're playing has been patched and some things have changed. What they're watching in the Let's Play may not even work the same or function the same.
That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
That's
A
true.
build could be completely obsolete. Like, yeah, you could be watching a Let's Play, and he's like, "Oh, use the blood katana because it one shots bosses," and then the guy picks it up and is like, "What the fuck? This is barely doing any damage."
Yeah.
That
Like I
is
said, like Dark
true.
Souls is
But
probably not the best one because that probably has stayed the same. But that's why I said Elden Ring. Like Elden Ring, there was a strategy to beating the boss, and then they was like, right, enough of that, and they changed how the build worked. As Mr. Gunner would be the best example of this because he was a mage, and they was just like, yeah, enough of you.
well,
Yeah, yeah.
They
that's the
damaged all
truth.
his all they nerfed all his damage. But like if you're not like, I mean, I would guess I give somebody the benefit of the doubt that they will look for the latest guide, but if they go by view count, they might go by whatever has the most views, even though it's old. And they'll be like, oh, well, build this magic or make this build in general. And then they try and do all that. And then none of it functions the same because the person who made the guide or the video isn't going to go back and be like, hey, this doesn't work anymore.
Hmm.
Well, here's the thing, right? I feel like as a modern gamer and someone who like refers to strategy guides when it comes to things, you must have this preconceived notion that the information that is provided will somewhat be outdated in the future. Given the world that we're currently in, given the how advanced technology is, you have to have that notion that things get updated. It's not going to stay static. If there's not a strategy guide or not a walkthrough of a particular boss or something where the effectiveness of the strategy is no longer there, best believe with like websites like Reddit, YouTube, someone is going to update that. And you as the player who's relying on these strategy guides have to, search through that information. That, it's it's all you can do. It's all you can really do at this point.
I mean, you could, but I'm just saying, like, this, I don't know. I just don't give people the benefit of the doubt. It's just how the easy way I'm going to put this. That's why I said like they're going to look for the thing that has the most views, and then they're going to, oh well, this must be good because this has the most views on it, and then not realize that things have changed.
No,
And
I
then,
absolutely get that. But then, if you are expecting something to still work in a game that has been updated, like, and let me rephrase that. Like, if you're expecting something of yours to may or may not change, you have to, then that's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you had a cartridge back in the day where you're playing again Zelda or Street Fighter, of course the everything's gonna be the same because there's no update. But in this current timeline, expect the unexpected. Expect whatever it is that you're playing to be obsolete. And also depending upon the time that you play, right? Because some people are probably now picking up Elden Ring. So expect some of that stuff to be outdated. If you don't, then I guess tough titty. Like I don't. I really like you. You can't really get
how dare
upset.
you be so elitist, sir?
It's not. It's not being elitist. It's just knowing full damn well that things change. Like when you bought a base iPhone, it was
I would
never.
never, but go on.
I know you would never, but I'm just saying if you bought a base iPhone or Android, the interface is going to change over time until the device's end of life. The same thing when it comes to games. Some stuff gets updated. If you don't know that now in this day and age, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I don't
Yeah.
think everything. It's not necessarily that things won't change. It's I don't know what's the word. The intricacies. So like you might know that something got patched or something got fixed, but you wouldn't like I guess specifically know that damage on a certain spell because I don't know what the spell was that you was using that they felt the need to specifically target.
I was for Elden Ring. I was using a sword. I think it was the sword of night and day or sun and moon, something like that.
Yeah.
Where and one spell was like a different magic, and the other one was a different magic. One was a laser beam, and I was using the laser beam because it was brain dead and fucking did massive damage.
Yeah, so like you wouldn't like you would expect things as far as like the enemies to get changed. You wouldn't expect them to specifically right. So this spell, everybody's using this spell, so we're going to change this specifically because people are using it too much, or it's not having the intended effect that we wanted it to have.
Well, I mean, I think it's to be expected at this point because there was a time where
Well, I mean, not everything is always broken.
no,
That's what I
I
mean.
get that, but things tend to sway based upon the populace that are playing the game. Like for example, one of the things I had to do was in Sekiro, I was like playing that game crazy, like nonstop. And I ended up beating the bull before they patched it because there was a patch making the bull easier because a lot of people were complaining about it. So
Yeah, I remember
if
that.
if that can be done for enemies, the chances are it's going to be done for like weapons, um, other aspects of the game as well. It's like
It can, but it's just I just mean like it's very unlikely because like I don't even maybe there was, but I don't even remember like a Sekiro patch for the player. It was mostly for the enemies.
I don't think so. No.
That's
I'm
more my
not really
point is
sure.
that it's very rare and unlikely that it's usually on the player side. Like usually it has to be something that's just like way out there, and that also depends on if like the company cares.
I don't know. It depends because I do recall stories of like you guys playing certain games and certain characters who were like pretty badass and on a god tier they got nerfed. And I'm not even referring to like fighting games. I'm referring to like actual, for the most part, I would say RPGs. Where
Oh
certain
yeah,
characters, yeah, they were pretty strong, and then out of nowhere, the company is like, nope, we need to dumb this down because there's an exploit in the game that people found out and they are running through the game too quickly or whatever. Um, yeah, it happens, man. I mean, again, in this day and age, with updates and companies being able to change minor things within their games, you can't expect the information provided last week to be good this week. Like you have to do your due diligence and figure out what's current from what's not. I mean, hell, games even give you a list of the things that they patch. So if you're not even reading that and you're looking at a strategy guide hoping that the strategy is still valid, I don't know what to tell you. There's nothing like
you know
I
what?
mean,
You cheat code that if you leave the game on freaking the initial patch, everything works as intended.
Yeah,
that's true.
that's the shenanigans you can do with at least modern video games.
Eh, if it's
But
the 1.0 file, you can technically everything would still work, but that's big braining it to do all that.
yeah. So okay, I guess to round out the conversation, I guess we'll bring it back to this weird notion that some people expressed that strategy guides are seen as some sort of cheat, like you're belittling the game, cheapening the experience, or some straight up cheating. So, I mean, I can see the argument. Yeah, I can see the argument for that. Where it's just like, I think Zeta said it and you said it too, Esoteric, where it's just like, you now have forward knowledge of what's going to happen. Like, oh, you're going to fight this boss. You know he's weak to ice. You wouldn't know that if you just went in blind.
Yeah, you also
Yeah,
probably wouldn't be as prepared, so you might heal up ahead of time.
Right.
if I had to equate it, it's like it's like reading a script before watching a movie. Like, you know what the characters are going to do, you know what they're going to say, you know how they're going to react. I feel like if you're reading a strategy guide from beginning to end and following the motions of that strategy guide through your gameplay, it's essentially the same thing. Like, I'm going to give some leeway, and I'm going to preface this with, I don't care how you play your games. It's your experience. However you want it, you got it. You paid your money. Do what you want to do. But I feel like, you're kind of lessening the experience by just playing a game and reading a strategy guide from beginning to end. Hence why I play the way that I play. Like, I want to be shocked when I'm ready to be shocked. There's certain items that they put in the game, or like enemies and stuff, where it's supposed to invoke emotion. And I feel like if you're utilizing a strategy guide from cover to cover, you're diminishing that emotion. You're taking away from that experience. But again, like I said, play how you want to play. That's entirely your prerogative. As Gunnar said, do what you want to do. But for me, different strokes for different folks.
Okay. Well, your opinion's a lot less hardline than some of the people I read. They just considered it on the same level as Cheat Engine. It's fucking sacrilege.
All right, we're not fucking playing League, and you're fucking scripting with Zareth. Calm down.
Yeah, exactly. That's like, cheating.
You're not exploiting the game. You're basically preemptive striking, so to speak. Like,
you might be cheating yourself, but like, let's not go crazy.
Right. As Ninja would say, you have learned nothing and you have not grown as a person. Whatever he said in this stupid ass book. Yeah, I mostly like I agree with that. Like, I've mentioned Persona. I'm playing Persona 4, and I am 100% following a guide. I can't be bothered to go. Oh, it'll bother me if I see everything at rank 10 and one of them is at rank 9. It's going to fucking give me an aneurysm.
Oh yeah.
And I completely understand that, simply because we're all adults here. So, with us being able to acquire games, we need to have a job. By us having this job, it takes up time from our schedule. To play an RPG in our age group, it's really difficult in terms of, like, let me just, to replay an RPG in this age group, depending upon, what your status is, it can be quite difficult. So I completely understand why you wouldn't want to miss anything and you want the full experience. I get that, I absolutely 100% get that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's been art. That's a product of me making RPGs, specifically JRPGs, Japanese RPGs, my main genre. There is so much stuff you can miss, and I don't have obsessive compulsive, not that I know of, but I can't live knowing that I missed something.
Yeah.
I just can't. And
it's a minor case of it where you're just looking at it like, this is wrong.
Maybe.
I mean, it's better than if you was playing like American RPGs, because then you got to sit there going like, right, there's like 40 different interactions for this one conversation.
Yeah, like,
what's going to get me what I want?
Yeah, so plenty of, like, JRPGs are really notorious for that. And, Esoteric talks about Elden Ring. I tried. I sat down when Elden Ring came out, and I was like, all right, I'm going to try and play this blind. I know I want to do a mage build, so I'm going to pick that as my starting class. And whatever spells I miss, whatever I miss, we're just going to play the game. We're going to get an ending. And that lasted like maybe 2 weeks before I was on the forums going, what spells am I missing? And then after that, I was like, fuck it. I'm on the forums all day. I'm like, where's the best mage? What's the best spell? I can't do that. I respect you, Esoteric, for playing your games like that. And, when I see you on stream playing, it takes me back when I was young and I could just do that. I can't do that anymore. I physically cannot do that anymore.
And too much of a min-maxer now.
I can't. Yeah, I can't. It bothers me. It just physically bothers me. So strategy guides, like, I'm thinking of the next Persona game. Persona 6. How am I gonna play that? There ain't gonna be no strategy guide. Like I can't play that and beat the game knowing, oh, that social rank ended at 7. That one ended at 3. I didn't even fucking do that one much. It's gonna, oh my god, it's gonna bother the shit out of me.
I'll have to sit there and wait until somebody freaking comes out with the list. Like, all right, here's the max strat for maximizing your time to spend with all these people.
I'll try, man. But that's why I'm a SMT fan. It's the only thing that's different is the ending. But hey, check out our SMT Persona podcast if you want to get more of my opinions on that.
Shameless plug.
Hey, man, gotta grind it out. So I know this one's been short, but so what are our? I guess we'll end it soon. So what are our overall thoughts about strategy guys? Just I've said my piece. Zeta and Esoteric, like just give me a rundown on strategy guides, how you feel about them, and then we can close up this interesting conversation.
I mean, like I said, it depends on what you're using it for. Like if it's from start to finish, I don't know how I'm gonna be elitist and I'm gonna look at you funny. But if you're trying to do something specific, then like I don't blame you because not every game is going to tell you what it is that you're trying to get or what you're trying to do, and it depends on what the game is. Like to slightly go back to what you was talking about for Vesperia, like in Versailles Quest, like because I beat Vesperia a long time ago, and spoiler alerts if you haven't, it's been out since the 360. The final enemy is freaking Duke, which is random as all hell if you don't do the side quest, because I'm like, he randomly just shows up every now and then, but if you don't do the side quest, you don't realize why he's doing what he's doing.
Was he an ally or?
It's not an ally. He's just like kind of just there.
Okay.
Right. And those little side quests that Zeta talks about, those are the things I'm talking about. Like, if you don't go into this alleyway at this chapter before you talk to this NPC, you lose that cutscene forever. It's like, God
you
bless.
lose the cutscene forever, so then you get to the end, and then you're just like, haha, I am the final boss. I'm like, why are you the final boss? Like, what was the build up to this? Because if you just play the game normally, Duke just shows up every once in a while, says some things, and then leaves, and then that's it. It's through the side quest that you kind of just realize and figure out that he's gonna try and kill us at the end.
I get that
So,
because
for something like that would be, I'd say it's all right, but you're more doing it for the side quest. That just happens to be a weird quirk of the game that the final boss his motives are explained through side quests.
Yeah,
I actually have a question. How would you know that side quest existed if the strategy guide wasn't being utilized beforehand?
You'd have to do what Gunnar said and just talk to every freaking NPC compulsively and get every skit.
Yeah, just make a habit of, I entered a new zone. Let me go back to the previous zone and speak to. It gets like really. You just have to talk to every NPC and go through the bad guys are killing monsters. I'm scared. You have to go through dialogue like that and over and over and over just to maybe catch something.
Yeah, and that's if you don't mess up. Because I ended up saying forget it because I didn't want to start over. I was too far in. Like that did happen to me. Not the whole Duke thing. The Duke thing I found out after the fact because I just looked it up. I was like, why was he the final boss? That didn't make sense. But like once I got towards the end, I was like trying to get the ultimate weapons and stuff, and I started looking stuff up, and it was like, oh, you needed to have done this. I'm like, huh? Well, that's too late. I didn't realize I needed to do these side quests.
Right, it's like, oh, I can't get any of the ultimate weapons now. Cool.
Yeah, it's like, well, I'm just gonna win this way, I guess. Because even in like, not that it's a big thing, but again, spoiler for if you haven't played. I've already told you that Duke's the final boss. But like, if you I don't remember what the fuck it's called. I don't remember what Yuri's last move is called. Damn it.
Oh God.
Well, anyways, his ultimate move. Like, if you use it on Duke, that like he'll get an extra animation as like a finisher specifically on Duke. That I don't remember if that changes the ending anyway at all, but it's an entire thing that happens just from using a move that you would otherwise miss. that I guess something like that would help in the strategy guide. Also would have helped if I had the ultimate weapon to guarantee all these things. But
Right. Yeah.
Man,
so,
I get your point in regards to that because there was an art and it's very prominent in RPGs where you'll miss something or you kind of miss out on a big story arc
yeah,
that's within the story. So I get that. So
yeah. Or the
you,
easy example, like Final Fantasy VII. We've all mostly played Final Fantasy VII here,
mhm.
where it's like we wouldn't get freaking the ultimate weapon, or you could have got Ares' weapon like super early because mega spoiler. Well, maybe not anymore because we're fucking rewriting the entire game. She did die at some point.
Look at this.
Spoilers now. She's probably not going to die.
Look at this guy using the mispronunciation Aries. It was Aries.
We Ares now.
Yeah, I was like, that shit blew my mind when I was young. I'm like, what the hell? It was like I didn't know about ultimate weapons. I'm like, this shit is mad fucking powerful. Then she just gets murked. I'm like, oh, right.
No, you mean how like in goddamn Star Ocean where I had like the best mage ever and come to find out he's a goddamn villain. He's the final boss. What was his name? FaZe.
Yeah, we don't talk about that loser.
That pissed me off. He was super strong. He was really powerful in his magic, and I'm like,
Hey
yeah,
man,
okay.
he gave you all the signs. He was like a femboy twink that was really good. You knew something was up.
Stole my items. Didn't even give it back. True villain.
Pissed me off, man. I hated him so much.
Yeah, well, I played it on 360 and my 360 kept freezing, so I had to wait till the PlayStation 3 to play.
Mm.
So okay, so I guess we'll wrap it up here. That was a good talk, gentlemen. Moral of the story is strategy guides have evolved. If you're of the younger age demographic and you want to know these old man strategy guides we were talking about, take a look at them. Look them up on the internet. You'll see that they were just a different beast before the internet. That was your art book. That was like how you got the world of X game.
Yeah.
But you might find it interesting. So, with that being said, once again, thank you, gentlemen.
Before you end, because I forgot, side note, or I don't remember if I said it or not, the strategy guides could be wrong if you spent your money on it, because I
that's
forgot
true.
what strategy guide it was that gave you wrong information. It was an old game. I don't remember now. It just popped into my head and then left just as quick. That
Yeah.
it was a strategy, and we all played the damn game too. That's the worst part. But there are some
Oh.
strategy guides that just like they just told you the wrong thing. So you could have had strategy guides that just straight up lied to you.
Yep.
And you would
Yep.
have been wasting your time.
And there was no update. There was no. You had to wait for a reprint, maybe, if that ever happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hey, look at that. Fucking. We even have correct information from the source back then.
Yeah.
So anyway, once again, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for being part of the podcast. We publish our episodes every Wednesday. So check it out on our Discord channel, which links to our YouTube page. Speaking of YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring the bell, all that cool jazz. We'd really appreciate it. Comment if you got a comment, with your RPG and strategy guide experiences. We read the comments and we respond, and we appreciate you interacting with our videos. Mr. Esoteric is an avid streamer. He streams on Twitch under the brand of Logical Gamers. Make sure you check him out. He streams pretty regularly every Monday, Friday, correct? If I'm saying that correctly?
That's correct.
Okay, 9 p.m. Eastern. So we're Eastern boys over here. So hey, look, if you like his content, he streams a mixed match of things. He's a variety streamer. He plays some modern games, plays some old school games. It's always fun watching him play a brand new series for the first time that was like a staple for some other people. So all his reactions are genuine. You'd have a good time if you show up. So, if you got a Twitch, you want to show up, he's on. All right, with that being said, thanks everybody for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next episode. Have a good night.
Take care.
Bye.